Hey everyone, it's Jenny Colacicco from the Wow Creative team. I hope you're all having a lovely day. Today I've got two cards to share with you. They feature a couple of techniques for using your embossing ink with paint. And on the second card, this one you see here, I'm actually going to be showing you how you can paint with the embossing ink. So to start off with, I've got two A2, slightly larger than A2 size panels of hot press white watercolor cardstock. And just to save time, I've taped them both down with some masking tape to a hard board. And I've covered the first panel with clean, clear water using a wide, flat brush. And I'm going to be adding a graduated wash onto this background panel. And I find it helpful to do this on a hardwood board because it lets me tip my cardstock. So you'll see here I'm actually tipping the cardstock. I'm using two colours of distress inks. My yellow is the Squeezed Lemonade, and I've lightly washed that over about 2/3 of the upper part of my panel. And then I'm coming in with some picked raspberry. My brush is wet. I've added a little bit of water and I'm just working it in from halfway down to the bottom. And I'm looking for a really nice gradual blend here. So that's my first layer, and I'm going to come back in with the yellow again just to kind of remove that harsh line in the middle and also make the colour a little bit more intense. It's super pale, and you see you get that gorgeous apricot colour in the centre where they overlap. Now I'm going to dry this first layer with my Wow Dual Heat Embossing gun, and I'm using it on setting 1, which is a slower, kind of less hot blast, and it's great for drying your multimedia projects or your watercolour like I am here. So once that's dried, I'm going to come back in with Squeezed Lemonade again, go back directly over the top. I haven't re-wet my cardstock, but I have obviously got a wet brush. And I'm going back over the Squeezed Lemonade and about 2/3 of the way down, and then coming back in with the picked raspberry to really make that pink brighter and more intense. I then added a little bit of clean clear water in the middle and tipped my board just to help that blend. Now before I've dried my panel, I'm coming in with some embossing glitter. This is the Zeus embossing glitter from Wow. It's a really gorgeous purpley colour with some big chunky bits of gold, almost like gold circly confetti. And I'm not using any embossing ink here. The embossing powder will actually adhere where there is water, and if you're quick enough with your heat gun, you can melt that embossing powder before the water has time to dry. Now it does take a little bit longer, so I recommend setting 1. You just don't want to burn your embossing glitter because you need that cardstock behind to dry as well. But it does work, and it adheres the embossing glitter or embossing powder directly to your cardstock. Now I'm doing my second panel here, and I've gone in with 3 shades of distress ink. I think it's pumice stone, weathered wood, and stormy sky. So a slightly darker, more masculine colour palette. And I'm doing about 1/3 of the panel in each colour and blending as I did before, and then drying in between with my heat tool on setting 1. Now I did go back in and do a second layer and then let it dry. So we're going to be doing a little bit of painting with the amazing Freestyle tool. I love that name, Freestyle tool. So you can totally use this with the rollerball, kind of paint patterns with that ball, but I'm going to pop the ball off. It takes a little bit of doing. You need long nails or a pokey tool or something. You just pop it off. And I'm tipping a little bit of the ink, it's very, very sticky, onto my craft mat. I'm then going to use this small, I think it's a 1/2 inch flat paintbrush. I recommend using an older paintbrush for this, but it does wash off. So I used water and then I used a little bit of hand sanitizer, and it came off perfectly and there was no damage to my brush. But you may not want to use a fancy brush. And I'm just going to paint stripes. This is going to be quite an artsy panel. The one disadvantage with this is you can't quite see what you're going to get until you heat emboss it because it's clear. So I'm roughly painting stripes across my panel, and I was inspired by a recent card by another member of the Wow Creative team, and I will try and link to that card in the description below because it was fantastic, and that was actually using a background stamp, and I wanted to see if I can get the same look by using a paintbrush with the Freestyle tool ink. I am now going to heat emboss it in one of my favourite embossing glitters. This is metallic platinum and sparkle, and I absolutely love this embossing powder. Now, some parts may stick where you don't want them. You can use a brush. I'm using, this is actually a blusher brush, just to brush off some of the powder where I didn't want it. But this is relatively artsy looking, so I wasn't too concerned if there were stray flecks. And then I very quickly heat embossed it. Now, I have die cut these panels. This one's die cut with a stitched rectangle die, and you can see in the close-up there how awesome that Zeus embossing glitter is. And I just love it against that yellow and pink background. Super, super sparkly. Love the purple and holographic with the gold. And I just trimmed down this panel, so I trimmed off the rough edges down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And you can see how super shiny that platinum sparkle is. Super, super pretty. So to finish my cards, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm using this Hey Gorgeous die from Pink Fresh Studio and this Let's Party die from Pink Fresh Studio. They come with like shadow outlines, and the Hey Gorgeous, you can actually separate out the two words. So you can have them above each other or straight along. Quite versatile. And I'm just going to use the inner portion of the Hey Gorgeous die and run it through my die cutting machine. These are very fine, so I recommend using a metal shim. And then you're going to probably need a pokey tool just to poke out those die cuts. And you could totally use what's left over on another card. I then adhered it down directly onto a white note card, and I'm popping out some of the pieces from the die cut words. Some of them are very, very, very small, but I'm popping out the larger pieces and some of the centres from the O's and the S and the E, and I'm just going to use some liquid glue just to glue those in place to give it a little bit more of a finished look. It was one of those days where I really wish I knew where my tweezers were. And to finish it off, I've just die cut this tiny little heart from some holographic cardstock, popped it up on foam tape, and that finishes my first card. Very bling. Absolutely love the Zeus embossing glitter. It's one of my favourites. Now for my second card, I'm using the Let's Party die, and I've die cut the outer layer from some vellum, and then the word dies itself from some black cardstock. And then I'm just going to adhere them together with some liquid glue. Again, really, really, really missing my tweezers. I don't know where they are to this day, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to buy some more. I'm just going to have to suck it up and buy some. And you'll see here I'm adding liquid glue behind the black die cut, so that'll hide any glue. And I'm adhering it directly onto the panel, which I've added to a white note card. And then as a finishing touch, I'm adding some iris sequins from Honeybee stamps in and around the word die, and that finishes my second card. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out all the other tutorials available on the WOW channel, and don't forget to subscribe. Have an awesome day. Bye.